get started with our next topic, that is compressibility and consolidation. So in our last couple of classes, we were trying to talk about what is compaction and how do we carry out the compaction, uh, how do we determine the required compaction that is to be achieved in the field, and what are the different field tests based on which we can determine the amount of amount of compaction that is achieved in the field. So all these certain terms we have tried to talk about with regard to the compaction. Next to move on, what we'll be trying to talk about is about compressibility and consolidation. So the word compressibility is nothing but it's the amount of compression what is happening in your soil because of the loading what it is subjected to. Okay. So once you have some load which is acting on the soil strata around that particular ground, wherever you are looking at. Okay. So once you have some external loading acting on that particular soil, due to that external load what is acting on the soil, you will be certainly seeing some amount of compression happening in the soil. That's nothing but we call it as your settlement. Other way we can also refer it as settlement that is happening in that particular soil. Okay. And why is that settlement happening in the soil? Whether it is due to only the removal of air voids or due to the removal of water voids. Okay. So that all we'll try to talk about. If it is due to the removal of air voids, we call it as your compaction, and the so-called phenomena due to the removal of water void, if that so-called compression is taking place in the soil, we call it as your consolidation. Okay. Generally, the structures are built on soils. They transfer loads to the subsoil through the foundations. The effect of loads is felt by the soil normally up to a depth of about 4 times the width of your foundation. So what does this particular statement mean? So generally, whenever we are trying to talk about any superstructure through its foundation transfers the loading onto your soil strata. Now, whatever the load that is getting transferred from the foundation onto the soil, whichever is there below the foundation, so to what maximum depth the effect of load getting transferred from the foundation is experienced by the soil. The soil which is existing till what depth is going to experience the effect of the load, whatever you have tried to transfer. Okay, so let me just talk about that here. Say for example, this is my foundation. Whatever the load that I have from the superstructure, all that load is getting transferred. Let's say this is somewhere is my ground. The load whatever is coming from this foundation onto the soil strata is getting distributed from the bottom of the foundation here. Okay. So what is happening is whatever the load which is coming from the foundation initially is distributed at the surface of contact between your soil and your foundation. So at that surface of contact only, on that particular area only, the load distribution is initially happening from the foundation onto the soil. But as we move into the deeper and deeper depth, what is that we have said? We said that okay, soil grain whichever is there here will start distributing the load onto its surrounding adjacent particles. Soil grain which is there here will start distributing the load onto its surrounding adjacent particles. So in the process, as you move into deeper and deeper depth, what we see is that the area what is available for distributing that load is going to be increasing, and what we are going to see is that as the area increases, the load whatever is getting transferred from the foundation onto the soil, that load is simultaneously getting distributed at this depth or at this depth or at this depth, at whatever depth you are looking at. So at each of that depth, that additional incremental load is coming into picture. But that load, whatever we are trying to talk about, is distributed over what area? Okay, depending on the area over which that particular load is being distributed, the amount of stress that gets developed on the soil which is there at this depth would be different, at this depth would be different, at this depth it would be different, and at some other depth it is going to be different. Because as you go into deeper and deeper depth, what is happening is the area available for the distribution of the same load is increasing. So amount of stress level, as it is directly proportional to your area over which that particular load is being distributed. So automatically the stress what is getting developed in the soil as you talk about the depth deeper and deeper, so amount of stress level starts decreasing with the increase in area of cross section of soil which is capable of or which is responsible for taking the load coming from the foundation. Now what is the statement that we were trying to look at? So whatever the load that comes from your foundation, which is coming from your coming from your superstructure, so that load is getting distributed onto the soil which is there below the foundation. Now, what is that depth of the soil strata which is responsible for taking that load? Is that the soil whichever is there below the foundation for some 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters? So, is the complete depth of the soil strata is responsible for carrying the load? Not exactly. So, what would happen is, as the load, whatever is getting distributed, if I say this is the footing position from where the load is getting distributed, if you try to look at this is the depth what I am trying to talk about, and if I am trying to understand how is your stress level varying with the depth of your soil below the foundation. So immediately at the contact between the foundation and the soil, you will have higher stress because of the lower area of contact which is trying to take the load. And as you move into deeper and deeper depths, what you see is that the stress level carried by the stress levels additionally induced in the soil at deeper and deeper depths are continuously decreasing. And if you look at the soil below some particular depth, though the stress is getting developed in that layer of the soil also, but the effect of stress levels which are getting developed beyond some particular depth, okay, beyond some particular depth of that meters, the amount of stress levels what are getting developed in the soil are significantly less. Okay. So what is that depth of the soil strata in which the stresses are going to cause the effect of compression or the amount of settlement? What is happening in the foundation? I repeat, the so-called loading which is coming from the foundation, which is subsequently getting distributed onto the soil which is there below the foundation. So due to that load, what is coming from the foundation, how much amount of settlements are expected to be happening in your foundation? So if I want to understand, so that settlements, whatever are going to be happening in your foundation is due to the compression happening in the soil which is there below the foundation. Okay. So once I say it is due to the soil which is there below the depth of the foundation, so till what depth of the soil strata which is responsible for causing that settlement? So the depth of the soil strata which is responsible for causing the settlements in the soil would be only some certain depth, because you could see the amount of stress levels getting developed in the soil is only till some particular depth. Okay, and this depth is what we say. Some people will consider it as maximum effect in the depth direction is 2 times to that of 3 times the width of the footing, or maximally we go up to consider what is called as 2 to 4 times that of the width of the footing. Let's say if the width of the footing is something 1 meter, if this footing size is 1 meter width, okay, footing is of 1 meter width, then the depth below the footing, to what maximum depth the effect of load coming from the foundation onto the soil is going to be seen means. So it is maximally up to 2 to 4 times that of 1 meter, that is nothing but 2 to 4 times that of your width of the footing. Okay. So that's how we understand. So what is that depth of the soil strata in which I should be looking at in understanding how much amount of settlement is happening. Okay. So that is the reason why we are trying to talk about all these stories. So the effect of loads is felt by the soil normally up to a depth of about 4 times the width of the foundation. The soil within this depth gets compressed due to the imposed stresses, that additional stresses what you are trying to introduce is going to cause some compression or some amount of settlement, and in what depth of the soil strata you are going to be seeing that effect of settlement means only a maximum up to a depth of 4 times the width of the footing which is below your footing level. The compression of the soil mass leads to the decrease in volume of the soil, which results in the settlement of the structure. So whatever the compression that is happening in your soil mass, that is nothing but your soil what you are looking at. Why is it happening, the compression? Because of the reduction in volume of void spaces. So because of the reduction in volume of the void spaces, certainly what is happening is there is a decrease in volume of the total soil. Okay. Once there is a decrease in volume of the total soil, so that decrease in volume of the total soil is represented in the direction of your vertical axis, and that is what we refer it as your settlement, which is happening in that particular structure, as that is what we refer it as your settlement in that particular foundation or any particular structure which is constructed or which is existing on that particular soil. If the settlement is not kept to tolerance limit, because is it compulsory that we are not going to see any, is it a guarantee that we are not going to see any settlements in any structure? No, settlements will happen in any foundation, but that settlement what your foundation is going to undergo should be within the tolerance limits as per the Indian Standard Reference Codes. Okay, So depending on the loads, whatever are coming from the superstructure, depending on the type of foundation, depending on the soil on which that particular foundation is resting, so we are going to have the maximum tolerance limit of settlement which is permissible in that particular foundation. In case if the settlement happening in that particular foundation is higher than that of the tolerance limits of settlement, then we say your structure in terms of serviceability wise, it is not going to be safe. Serviceability wise means the amounts of settlements what are happening in that particular foundation are more than that of the tolerance limits or the maximum permissible limits of settlement. So in such case, we consider the structure to be not safe. So it is therefore important to have an understanding, or we should have an idea of how to predict the amount of soil compression or the settlement resulting from the so-called process of consolidation is very important. Okay, so how much amount of compression is going to be happening in your foundation? So if I just want to understand, so first we should know that so-called settlement, whatever I am trying to refer in the case of your structure in the foundation, whatever, is because of what all criteria. Okay, so one could be because of your compaction, because compaction is the process what we are trying to take up before the construction of any particular structure. So that settlements are already completed, no issue. Now, because of the next process, that is your consolidation, we are trying to look at some amount of settlements happening in your structure, and what are those settlements, how do we classify those settlements, all that we'll try to look at. Basically, settlement is nothing but it is defined as the compression of a soil layer due to the loading applied at or near its top surface. So, in whichever soil I am trying to look at some compression happening, okay. So, due to the load, whatever is acting over that soil strata or at that particular position of the soil strata, due to that loading, we are going to be seeing the so-called compression happening in the soil layer, in that particular soil layer, and which we are referring it as settlement in that particular soil. The total compression of soil under load, under the applied load, is composed of three components. So whenever we are trying to talk about the total amount of settlement happening in that particular soil, would be generally understood in the form of three different settlements. Okay, that those three different settlement components put together is what we call it as a total settlement in that particular soil, or in that particular foundation existing on that soil. Okay. So what are those three different components which totally gives you the ultimate settlement or the final settlement in that particular soil? So that is nothing but what we call it as three components are nothing but elastic settlement, primary consolidation settlement, and secondary consolidation settlement is something sometimes we call it as, or otherwise we also write it as secondary compression settlement. Okay. So what does this elastic settlement mean? So the word elastic itself says whenever there is a load applied on that particular soil, so due to the compression, elastic deformation happening in the soil mass, we are going to see some amount of settlement happening. That is what we call it as here elastic settlement, which generally happens immediately after the application of your loading. Over a shorter period of time, immediately after the application of the loading, you would see some elastic deformation happening in your soil skeleton structure, resulting in what is called as here some amount of settlement. So in that shorter period of time, so that settlement is what we call it as here elastic settlement. And next is primary consolidation settlement. So what does this primary consolidation settlement mean? So first, before we start talking about this primary consolidation settlement, first we need to understand the word, what does this consolidation mean? So what does this consolidation mean? Consolidation is nothing but a process in which we are going to see there is a reduction in volume happening in the soil because of the expulsion of water. So whenever you have some external loading acting on the soil, I repeat, due to some external loading acting on the soil, you would see over a period of time, there will be an expulsion of water or water particles which are existing in the void spaces. Those water particles start slowly coming out of the soil through the interconnected void path. And due to the expulsion of water from the void spaces, you are going to see the decrease in volume of voids happening. And due to the decrease in volume of voids, we say the volume of your soil decreasing. And why is that volume of soil decreasing? Because of the reduction in volume of water void spaces. Okay. So that settlement, whatever is happening in the soil, because of the expulsion of water from the interconnected void path, so such settlement is what we call it as your primary consolidation settlement. And next, secondary compression, settlement due to secondary compression or secondary consolidation. So what does this mean? Okay, so in this particular phase, whenever I am trying to talk about the settlement due to secondary compression, what does it mean? So once your primary consolidation settlement is completed in that particular soil, so what has happened initially, once I applied some loading on that particular soil strata, immediately some amount of settlement is happening in the soil due to the soil compression, soil skeleton particles in the soil skeleton arrangement when they are getting compressed. So some amount of settlement is what we are seeing in the soil, which we are calling it as elastic settlement. And that load what is acting on the soil is still there, and due to that load what is existing, what is getting applied on that particular soil over certain period of time, what we are seeing is that the water particles, due to the excess pore water pressures which are getting built up in your soil, so the water particles start slowly finding some interconnected void path through which it can escape out of your soil. So in the process, as the water particles start getting dissipated out of your soil, start coming out of your soil medium through the interconnected void path. So because of that reduction in volume of voids due to the expulsion of water, then once again we are going to see some amount of reduction, or rather more amount of reduction in volume of the soil taking place, which we are calling it as some more settlement additionally they are happening because of the effect of consolidation, which that settlement we are calling it as your primary consolidation settlement. So once the settlement due to this expulsion of water is completed, then what is going to happen is, next in the third phase you are not seeing the water further coming out, but what is going to happen is, as that load which is continuously acting on the soil is going to cause you an effect of what is called as creep. So what does this creep mean? Creep, the effect of creep is nothing but due to a constant load what is getting applied on any particular body or any particular material, you are going to see a continuous deformation happening in that particular material. So here in this case the material is soil, so the load we are not trying to change anything, but what is happening here, because of which some amount of settlement we are trying to come across with means, so due to the readjustment of the particle skeleton structure, due to the readjustment and realignment of your soil grains, let's say particles initially might be something like this. Now at the end of your primary consolidation, due to that same constant of load, then you might have seen after some time, you are not trying to change any loading, you are not seeing any water particle coming out, but there might be a slight reorientation of the particles, readjustment of the particles in the soil skeleton structure, which could additionally result into some amount of settlement in that particular soil, and that settlement we are calling it as secondary compression settlement. And that effect, because of which we are trying to come across with this secondary compression settlement, so that phenomena, that effect is what we call it as a creep effect. So the same thing what I have talked about are mentioned here, so you can just go through them again. So secondary consolidation settlement or secondary compression settlement is because of the volume change due to the plastic adjustment of soil fabric under a constant effective stress. So you are applying the same, the amount of stress level induced in the soil is the same. You are not having any changes in terms of the amount of stress levels, but due to the plastic adjustment, that's nothing but the reorientation or readjustment of your soil particles in the soil skeleton structure. So due to that only, some amount of volume change is happening in the soil, some volume decrease is happening in the soil. So due to that volume decrease, certain slight amount of settlement is what we are trying to come across in that particular soil, and which we are calling it as your secondary consolidation settlement. Generally, when it comes to the case of your coarse grain soil, so we do not talk anything about your primary consolidation settlement, or rather your secondary compression settlement. So when it comes to the case of your coarse grain soils are said to be undergoing only what is called as your immediate settlement, or rather we also call it as your elastic settlement. Okay. So what does this statement mean? Why is that coarse grain soils are expected to have only immediate settlement or elastic settlement in the sense? So whenever you look at your coarse grain soil, let's say for example sandy soil, the coefficient of permeability of that particular sandy soil is relatively very high. So once you have some loading, though that sandy soil is said to be fully saturated, so once you have some loading acting on that sandy soil deposit, so water particles which are there inside the void spaces, they can easily get escaped out of your sandy soil once you start applying the load on that sandy soil. Why is that water particles are easily getting escaped? Because the size of the void space or the size of the interconnected void path is relatively high. So because of which the water particle can easily get dissipated out of the soil, then the so-called settlements, whatever are happening in that coarse grain soil deposit due to the load, are going to be relatively immediate in nature. Okay, so that's the reason why we call them as your immediate settlement, whereas your primary consolidation settlement is a time dependent settlement. Why do we say time dependent settlement? Because if you are trying to look at your fine grained soil which are said to be saturated, if the void size in the case of your fine grained soil is relatively very less, and in order to have the water particle to move out of that particular fine grained soil mass relatively requires a very longer period of time, sometimes in terms of 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, and so on. So depending on that, so due to that expulsion of water, which is happening relatively over a longer period of time, so that subsequent settlement, what is being induced in the soil, is what we call it as your primary consolidation settlement. So please do understand. So coarse grain soils do not undergo consolidation settlement due to relatively high hydraulic conductivity compared to that of your clayey soil. So instead, your coarse grain soils are said to be undergoing what is called as only immediate settlement, or otherwise we also call it as sometimes elastic settlement. So what is this word consolidation settlement referring to me then? It is the vertical displacement of the surface, that's the soil surface, and maybe a foundation level, whatever you are talking about, corresponding to the volume change. Due to the volume change, what is happening in that saturated soil deposit because of the expulsion of water from the void spaces, some vertical displacement is happening in the soil, and that vertical displacement, what is happening in the soil due to the expulsion of water from the void spaces existing in the soil when some external loading is applied, or because of some other changes what is happening in that particular soil. So we come across with what is called as your consolidation settlement. Okay, so this consolidation settlement, whatever we are trying to talk about, it need not be only because of superstructural load. When the superstructural load is applied, it is not just that only due to the superstructural load your water is coming out of your interconnected void path. Okay, so this so-called consolidation settlement would also be understood in some other cases when they are expected to be happening. Okay, so this consolidation settlement will result not only from this particular case, what I have already talked about. So we are also even coming across with another case in which we come across with this, what is called as consolidation settlement. So this consolidation settlement will also result, for example, if a structure is built over a layer of saturated clay. So if I am constructing any structure on a layer of your saturated clay, yes, the so-called consolidation settlement will happen. Or otherwise, it need not be because of a structure constructed on a saturated clay. Even due to another reason also, you would be coming across with your consolidation settlement. When is that going to be? Whenever your water table position is getting lowered permanently, because of whatever reason it could be. Okay, so whenever the water table position is permanently getting lowered, then what is going to happen? Once the water table is permanently lowered, the pore water pressures building up in the soil are decreasing. Once the pore water pressures built up in the soil are decreasing, then automatically the effective stresses developed in the soil are going to be increasing. Because how do we write down effective stress? Effective stress is nothing but total stress minus pore water pressure. How do we calculate this total stress? Total stress is nothing but unit weight of soil into the corresponding depth of the soil strata. So total stress is something remaining constant, but what is happening to this pore water pressure? So with the lowering of your water table position, so the pore water pressures building up in the soil are decreasing. Once the pore water pressures building up in the soil are decreasing, then there is an increase in effective stress developed in the soil. So this effective stress is nothing but the load which is carried by the solid particles existing in the soil medium. So once that particular effective stress is increasing, then automatically the settlement what you are going to be coming across in that particular soil will also start increasing. Okay, so that settlement can also be called as, otherwise that particular settlement is also called as your consolidation settlement. So whenever you are trying to talk about this consolidation settlement, so this consolidation settlement need not be because of some external loading what is acting on your saturated clay soil deposit or saturated fine grained soil deposit. It can also be because of the lowering of your water table position in that particular fine grained soil deposit. Still you are coming across with some settlement happening over a longer period of time. So that settlement is what we are calling it as your consolidation settlement. So I just want to make you understand that it need not be because only of the external loading your pore water pressures are decreasing due to the dissipation of water. It can also be because of the other reason that your lowering of water table position also results into the decrease of your pore water pressure, so which indicates an increase in your effective stress. So due to that also, you will be coming across with what is called as your consolidation settlement. So basically, consolidation is the time-dependent settlement what we are going to be coming across in your fine grained soil, resulting from the expulsion of water from the soil pore spaces. So from the soil pore spaces, whatever the water particles that are existing due to some external loading or maybe because of the lowering of water table position. So there is a reduction in pore water pressures which are getting built up, and due to that reduction in the pore water pressures what are getting built up, then your so-called settlement, what you are coming across is what we are calling it as your consolidation settlement. So the rate of escape of water from that particular interconnected void spaces totally depends on the permeability of that particular soil. So if the if the soil permeability is relatively very high, as similar to that of your gravel or sand, so we don't say your soil is requiring more time for dissipation of that excess pore water pressure. Okay, so relatively time required is less, so automatically we don't call it as your consolidation settlement. Rather, I'll be calling it as your immediate settlement. But when it comes to the case of fine grained soil, as the void sizes, as the pore spaces existing in the fine soils or fine grained soils are relatively small, so time required for the water to get dissipated or get expelled out of your pore spaces relatively require more and more time. So due to that more and more time, so whatever settlement is continuously happening over that longer period of time, so that settlement is what we are calling it as your consolidation settlement. And to be more specific, it is called as your primary consolidation settlement. So what we are trying to talk about is all about the consolidation. Now, the permeability of clay, we understand it is relatively very, very less, due to which the drainage, whatever takes place, the rate at which the water particles comes out of your soil when some effective stress is developed in the soil is increasing. So due to which the water particles start getting dissipated out of the soil, but the rate at which the water particles start getting dissipated out of the soil is relatively very, very less in the case of your clay soil deposit. So that's the reason why, as the time requirement for dissipation of water is more, then the time required for the completion of that particular settlement is also relatively more. Clay soils undergo what is called as consolidation settlement, not only under the action of external loads, okay, but also under its own weight or weight of soils that exist above the clay soil strata. Okay, so always you need not have the clay soil above which you have some external loading acting. Okay, this could be one possible case which is trying to cause some increase in effective stress, which is resulting in what is called as a settlement in that particular soil. But there could be another case also, like say this is some sandy soil and below which you have some clay soil. So because of the self-weight of the sandy soil layer also, you are going to see some amount of settlement happening in this particular clay soil deposit, because due to the self-weight of this sandy soil layer existing over a depth of something, let's say h1 meters, so due to that much amount of stress coming from the sandy layer onto the clay layer, some additional settlements are expected to be happening in the clay layer. Why? Because due to that additional stress coming from the sand layer onto the clay layer, water particles existing in the interconnected void parts of the clay layer start getting dissipated out over a period of time and resulting in the settlement in your clay soil deposit. The amount of settlement what is going to be happening in that particular soil is proportional to what is that we refer it as your one-dimensional strain caused by the variation in the effective stress. So the word settlement how much amount of settlement what we are going to be coming across in the soil, if I just want to understand. So that settlement is proportional to the one-dimensional strain. Why are we calling it as one-dimensional strain? Why not the three-dimensional strain? We are saying there is a change in volume. I repeat, there is a change in volume which is resulting in compression in the vertical direction. If the volume of the soil is said to be changing rather decreasing, then volume is understood in three-dimensional. But however, whenever you use the word compression or settlement happening in that particular soil, then settlement is referred as the deformation of that particular soil strata or the decrease in height of the soil strata only in the z direction, that is in the vertical direction. The change in height of the soil strata in the vertical direction is what we consider as settlement in the soil. Okay, so why do we talk only in terms of the strain or the deformation happening in the soil only in vertical direction? Why not in the other direction? Okay, so what happens is when we are relatively looking at the ground, we understand that the ground, according to us, when we look at it, is spread in this x direction as well as in this y direction to a relatively very far away distance. But when we start looking at the soil strata, because the ground is here, my observation is from here, so any change in the position of this ground relatively in the vertical direction is very much clearly understood with our naked eye. Our measurements can be calculated by looking at that change in height what is happening. But is that soil grain not getting displaced in the lateral direction in the sense x and y direction? It doesn't mean that the particle is not getting displaced relatively in x direction and y direction. Particle starts getting displaced in all possible directions, because whenever you are trying to apply the loading on the soil, so your solid particles start moving into the interconnected, your solid particles try to get displaced into the void spaces wherever are available. So when the solid particle is trying to move towards the void space whichever is available, that solid particle may not be always moving only vertically in the downward direction. It might be moving like this, it might be moving like this, ultimately resulting in what is called as settlement, which are referring only in the vertical direction. Because in the other direction, the displacement, though the particle is having, but we are not able to see how much change is happening in the dimension of that particular soil layer in both x and y direction, because to the extent to which your naked eye could see the soil extended in the x direction and in z direction is up to some infinite distance. But in the z direction, it is very clearly understood that your surface of the ground where you are trying to stand and where subsequently some amount of impression being formed are clearly understood by your observation. So that's the reason why whenever we try to talk about your amount of settlement happening in the soil is generally referred as that of your strain happening only in your vertical axis direction. Though we start saying that the settlement, whatever is happening in the soil, is because of the change in volume of the soil. Once we say change in volume of the soil, that change in volume of the soil would certainly give you what is called as volumetric strain. But however, this volumetric strain is subsequently going to be represented as strain only in your vertical direction. Okay, so this is nothing but the strain in your vertical direction. Okay, so that strain in vertical direction is what we simply refer it as your settlement in that particular soil. Strain, what is getting induced in that vertical direction, is in turn resulting in what is called as your settlement in that soil. The rate of settlement, what is happening in that particular soil, is going to be basically a function of the soil type. Okay, so depending on the type of soil, we understand at what rate the settlement takes place in that soil, and it also depends on the geometry of the soil profile. Geometry of the soil profile means whether you are trying to refer to that of the soil in which, let's say for example, this is some soil layer, and this soil layer, whatever I am trying to look, which is subjected to some additional stresses, because of which the water particle which is there here, let's say I have some water particle here, I have some water particle here, I have some water particle here, I have some water particle here. If this water particle has to come out of the soil, this particle can either move in this direction or could either move in the downward direction. It totally finds some direction towards which it can easily get dissipated out. Now in case if it is a sandy soil here, and maybe here sandy soil here, this is the clay soil, Now what happens? Can this water particle existing here, is it has to travel only in the upper direction to reach to the surface or to get dissipated out of the clayey soil? This water particle need not travel only in the upper direction. It can also easily travel towards whatever the direction it feels like, towards whichever direction it wants, but in whichever direction it requires lesser time to get dissipated out. In that direction it freely flows because of the pressure gradient difference existing. So if your water particle is free to get displaced in both the directions to ultimately come out of your soil medium or your clay soil deposit, if the dissipation excess for water pressure or the water particle, if it want to get dissipated, if it is free to travel in both the directions, then the time required for the complete dissipation of water particles from the interconnected void frost through your clay soil would be relatively less when compared to that of if you have the water particles to travel only in one particular direction to get dissipated out. So that is, in the other way, I'll call it as drainage path. What does this word drainage path mean? If your water particle is free to get displaced in both the directions, ultimately to get drained out of your clay soil strata, then we have what is called as two-way drainage. Two-way drainage means this particle can either move in this downward direction or it can either move in the upward direction. So you have two ways by which the water particle can get drained out. So that is what we call it as two-way drainage. Okay. In other case, let's say for example, here I have sandy soil, this is your clay soil strata, and below which it is an impervious rock. Now, a water particle which is existing here, can it get dissipated out of this clay layer by moving in the downward direction? No, not possible, because the coefficient of permeability of this rock strata is relatively very less when compared to that of your clay soil. So obvious that your water particle from clay layer cannot move towards your rock strata, because you don't say any drainage happens through this clay rock strata. So in which direction this water particle has to travel in order to get dissipated out of your clay particle? In order to come out of your clay particle, in this case the water particle has to only move towards your sand layer. So that means only in one direction it has to travel. So the time required for the water particles ultimately to come out of your clay layer in order to have your consolidation settlement to be completed. So the time required is going to be relatively high when you have only drainage in the one direction. Okay, so that is what we call it as one-way drainage. Okay, so depending on the number of directions in which the water particle can easily travel and get dissipated out of that particular soil strata. So if the number of drainage paths are more, then time required for complete water to get drained out is relatively less. And if the number of drain paths are directions in which the water particle can get dissipated out of the soil, okay, if number of drain paths are directions in which it gets dissipated is less, then automatically time required for the water particles completely to get dissipated out of that particular soil layer is relatively high, and the so-called consolidation settlement happens relatively over a very long period of time if you have one-way drainage, and over a shorter period of time if you have what is called a two-way drainage. If I want to further fasten the process of the consolidation there by allowing the water to easily get drained out of the soil, I can try to further improve the drainage conditions by introducing some more additional drainage paths, not just by moving only in vertical upward or vertical downward. So some other additional drainage paths can also be introduced in your soil strata, so that your water particles can easily get dissipated out of that particular soil strata, resulting in fastening the process of so-called consolidation. So let us just have an idea about what is the difference between word consolidation and compaction. In the last class already we have certainly talked about these two comparisons, but however let us try to have a clear idea about it after talking about what is compaction and consolidation. So in the case of compaction, what is that we say? It's an instantaneous process and it is applicable to all different type of soils. Why do we say it's an instantaneous process? Because you start applying some external loading and you try to compact that particular ground, and that so-called process of compaction, which is reducing the volume of soil because of the reduction in volume of air void, is happening over a shorter period of time, that expulsion of air. Now whereas the case of your consolidation, so your so-called case of consolidation is happening over a longer period of time depending on your type of soil basically, and depending on the drainage path, depending on the condition of quotient of permeability of the soil and so on, depending on various factors, we say the time required for the so-called process of consolidation to be completed is relatively very high when compared to that of the time required in the case of your compact. Okay, so consolidation is said to be time-dependent process, and we talk about this word consolidation only in the case of your fine-grained soil, that too in the case particularly your clay soil deposit. And this process of consolidation can happen in some type of soil deposits. This so-called process of consolidation might even take some hundreds of years, okay, in order to have the complete process of consolidation settlement to be completed in that particular process. So this compaction is generally applicable. This discussion about compaction is generally what we talk in the case of your unsaturated soil. Whenever your soil is said to be unsaturated, in such kind of soils only you are going to be having the volume of void partly filled by air also. So whenever you are removing the volume of air, then only we say that process is called as compaction. So whenever we talk about word compaction, we say it is nothing but applicable to that of the discussion pertaining to your unsaturated soil, because we are dealing with decrease in air void, not the water void. And when it comes to the word consolidation, it refers to that of only saturated soils. Why saturated soils? Because in the process of consolidation, what are we trying to do is we are trying to remove the water particles existing in the void space. So this, whenever I say, when I am trying to remove the water particle from the void space, water particle comes out of the void space only when if the void is completely filled by water. If that particular void is partly filled by air and partly filled by water, so you are not going to see that water particle is going to be coming out of that particular void space. Rather, air only comes out of that void space. Why is that air coming out of the void space? Why not the water? Okay. Air we assume incompressible. Water we assume incompressible. Solid particles existing in the soil is also assumed to be incompressible. But whenever some load is applied on the soil, if air is present inside the void space, air is going to be first coming out of the void space. The reason is density of the air is relatively less when compared to the density of the water. So due to which your air easily gets escaped out of your void space when some external loading is applied. Once you say all the air is removed, then next what comes out of it is your water particle, not the solid particle. Why not the solid particle coming out? Because the density of the solid particle is higher than that of your density of your water particle. So because of which the water particle starts easily coming out of that void. Okay. So in both the cases, the dry density of the soil is going to be increasing because we are trying to cause decrease in volume of the soil at the end of the process. Okay. So because of the decrease in volume of the soil, in both the cases we say the density of the soil increases, but in the case of compaction, though there is an increase in density of the soil, particularly we understand the strength in terms of the dry density. Okay, dry density is going to increase, but we are not going to see any change in water content happening because no water particle is coming out of the soil in the process of compaction. But when it comes to the case of consolidation, yes, dry density is increasing, but why is it happening? Because of the expulsion of water. Whenever the water particle is coming out of the soil through the interconnected void path, then only because of which there is a decrease in volume of the soil. Due to the decrease in volume of the soil, we say the soil is becoming denser, resulting in what is called as an increase in dry density of that particular soil. So if I am just trying to understand that so-called decrease in volume of the soil in the form of phasor representation, in phase diagram representation. Let's say initially the soil is like this. As we are trying to talk about the consolidation settlement or this process of consolidation happening only in the case of your saturated soil. So once we say it is in the case of saturated soil, obviously we are not going to be talking about three phases in that phase diagram. Rather, we are going to be talking only about here two phases in that particular phase diagram. What are those two phases going to be? Solid phase and the complete void phase. What we are referring to is nothing but it is occupied by water. In a simplest form, if I want to understand. Now, due to the loading externally, what is getting applied on that particular fine-grained soil layer, that's the clay layer. So what is happening is some amount of water particles start coming out of your soil, due to which there is a reduction in volume of the void. Okay, once there is a reduction in volume of the void, so initially you could see the height to which the soil was represented is still here, but due to that load what was getting applied, there is a reduction in height of that particular soil, and that reduction in height of the soil is what we are calling it as settlement in the soil. Okay. So our objective would be in understanding how much amount of settlement is happening in that particular soil because of some increment in stress. So if I just want to understand that, maybe from your phase diagram I can try to calculate, or from any other approaches I can try to calculate. But let us just try to have an idea. Okay. In the volume scale, if I just want to understand, this volume of solids is what we are representing for the solid phase, and the other phase is nothing but void space. Let's say initially, not here refers to initial. Okay, volume of voids existing in the soil initially. Initially in the sense before the application of any increment in stress. So what is the volume of voids initially? If I want to write down, volume of voids initially is equal to, we are writing it as initial void ratio into volume of solids. We say volume of solids in the soil mass is not changing at all. The volume of solids in the soil mass always remains constant. Okay, so there is a change in volume of the soil only due to the change in volume of void spaces, not because of the change in volume of solid particles. So that's the reason why I am not writing here anything called as, here I am not indicating anything as volume of solids initially or volume of solids finally. Initially or finally, the amount of volume of solids existing in that particular soil mass is same. Right. So if you can go back to the fundamentals, how we define void ratio. Void ratio is nothing but volume of voids by volume of solids. So from this expression, if I want to write down what is my volume of voids is equal to E into volume of solids. And if I want to write down what is my volume of voids initially, it is equal to initial void ratio of that particular soil into volume of solids. In the same way, if I want to write down what is my volume of voids finally, it is equal to final void ratio of the soil into your volume of solids. Okay. Sometimes we might be coming across in representing the final value as F, or sometimes you might be seeing the value indicated as I. I indicates at any time. It may not be final time, maybe after 5 hours or 5 days or 5 months, 5 years. If I want to understand what is the change in volume of voids or the volume of voids after the 6th year or 10th year, whatever, so I can just try to write like. So if you look at these particular expressions in this term, look at this. So how are we getting this means? So here, if you start writing down, what is your total volume of the soil? Total volume of the soil is equal to volume of voids plus volume of solids. Now what is volume of voids represented as? E into volume of solids plus volume of solids. If I take volume of solids common, then I'll have 1 plus E. So this implies volume of solids is equal to total volume of the soil by 1 plus E. Okay. So capital V generally indicates it's the total volume of the soil. Here T is indicated, T indicating total volume of the soil. Okay. Initially, whenever I talk about, not symbol is going to be used. Finally, in terms of the final volume of soil and final void ratio, if I want to calculate, or if I want to write down what is my volume of soil, its expression, then I'll be writing it as like. Okay. So do not please have any confusion in why are we getting, how are we getting all these particular terms represented here. Okay. Let's go ahead in understanding what is the statement represented here. The volume of solids remains constant in the soil profile. Any change in height in the soil is equal to the change in height of void spaces only. Okay. Sir, why are you saying change in height of the soil is equal to change in height of void? So change in height is because of what? Change in volume of void spaces. Am I correct or not? Okay. But why are we writing only in terms of change in height of void? If you take any soil sample, let's say I am taking some soil sample in the cylindrical cross section. If the load is applied on that soil sample, then what is happening? In the cylindrical cross section, if I am looking at the soil, The cross-sectional area of the soil sample is not changing. What is changing is only the height in which you are representing the change happening in that particular soil, because it's a one-dimensional strain what we have talked about. Though the particle starts getting displaced in the lateral direction, but relatively the amount of displacement what we see in the lateral direction happening is not very clearly visible when compared to that of the amount of change happening in the vertical direction. Okay, so that's the reason why whenever we talk about that so-called settlement happening in the soil, settlement happening in the soil is simply represented as change in height of the soil. The change in height of the soil is what we are in turn representing it as the change in height of your void spaces existing in that particular soil. So if the total and void volumes are divided by a unit cross-sectional area, because if earlier I have looked at two expressions, okay, so that is your total volume of the soil initial, total volume of the soil maybe after some point of time. Okay, so these two expressions, if I just try to divide, how did I have those two expressions? Vt naught, I had it as Vs into 1 plus E naught, and Vti is what I have it as Vs into 1 plus Ei. Okay, so if I am dividing this ratio of, if I am trying to talk about the ratio of Vti by Vt naught, so what is it going to be? Vs into 1 plus Ei by Vs into 1 plus E naught. So Vs gets cancelled, and the ratio of Vt, that's the volume of the soil, total volume of the soil, finally by total volume of the soil initially is nothing but it is equal to 1 plus Ei, that's the void ratio of the soil finally, by 1 plus E naught. E naught refers to the void ratio of the soil initially. So this in other way I can also start rewriting it. Okay, this expression what I have here can also be rewritten according to my comfort. How do we write down volume? Volume is nothing but area into height. Okay, so what is your final volume of the soil means? It is the cross-sectional area of the soil sample into final height of the soil sample. Okay, so the cross-sectional area of the soil sample I am considering it to be constant, because the strain whatever is happening is said to be happening only in one particular direction, and a visible strain is what is indicated only in one particular direction. So I can rewrite this expression as cross-sectional area of the soil sample, I am indicating it as A into the final height of the soil sample, Hi, divided by initial volume of the soil is nothing but initial cross-sectional area of the soil sample, because the cross-sectional area of the soil sample initially or finally is the same. What change we are coming across is only in terms of its height. So this is equal to 1 plus Ei by 1 plus E naught. A gets cancelled. What I'll have is Hi by H naught is equal to 1 plus Ei by 1 plus E naught. That is what you have here indicated. Okay. So I can further rewrite this particular expression. So why are we writing all this? That is according to our requirement. In later point of time, if I want to find out anything according to your requirement, so you can try to make use of these different relations, whatever we have from the literature, and accordingly you can try to find out them. So what is the final height of the soil equal to? Final height of the soil is nothing but it is equal to initial height of the soil minus change in height of the soil. So that initial height minus change in height of the soil is what we are representing it as your final height of the soil. And H in simple terms is indicating you what is called as your initial height of the soil. The strain that occurs in the clay is equal to the strain in height divided by the original height only, whatever the strain that we are trying to talk about. Generally, as we are trying to say, in the case of the consolidation process, there is a decrease in volume happening. Okay, so once we start from the basic fundamentals again, once I am talking in terms of the change in volume happening, so let me define the strain as volumetric strain. So how do we write down the volumetric strain? Change in volume by original volume. Now what is change in volume means? Our original volume means volume. If I want to write down, volume is nothing but cross-sectional area into the corresponding change happening. Change is happening in terms of what? Not in terms of cross-sectional area. Change is happening in terms of the height. Okay, so A into delta H by A into original height. A gets cancelled, so that's the reason why we simply say you either write it as volumetric strain or either you write it as your strain in the height direction. Height direction means I can also even write it as strain in your z-axis direction, which can be simply represented as delta H by H, where delta H indicates what? Change in height of the soil sample, and that change in height of the soil sample is what we call it as settlement in the soil because of the load what that particular soil is subjected to, which is causing a decrease in height of the soil. Okay, so that's how we start writing it. So please come back to this expression what I have indicated here. So simply strain, either I write it as strain in vertical direction or z-axis direction, or I can also call it as your volumetric strain. So either of it can be simply represented as delta H by H, where this delta H by H, if I start understanding it, so what is change in height of the soil sample from previous expressions if I start deriving it. So the change in height of the soil to that of its original height of the soil will certainly be represented as delta E by 1 plus E naught. So what does delta E mean? It is the change in void ratio. Change in void ratio is what I can write it as your initial void ratio minus final void ratio. So in the process, if I start rewriting it, so initial void ratio is E naught, final void ratio, let's say EI, this should be equal to delta H by H into 1 plus E naught. See, I am not arbitrarily writing anything here. Everything can be derived from this same basic fundamentals of your phase diagram. And from this, if I want to note down what is the final void ratio, okay, let's say initially I know what is the void ratio in that particular soil. Now, due to the application of the load what is placed on that particular soil, after some point of time, I could see some amount of change in height of the soil sample took place, because of which obviously the void ratio in the soil is getting changed. So after the application of your loading on the soil, due to the amount of settlement what happened in that particular soil, if I finally want to understand how much is going to be the void ratio that your soil is going to be having in it, means it is nothing but EI is equal to initial void ratio minus of 1 plus E naught into delta H by H, where delta H indicates the change in height of the soil, which I can refer it as the settlement in the soil, and small h refers to that of the original height of the soil before the application of that additional load. So this so-called phenomena of consolidation, if we are trying to look at, it's very clearly understood from a physical model based on which we will be able to know, okay, how can we relate this so-called, how do we understand why this so-called consolidation process is happening? Why do we say your water particle is coming out? What is responsible for initially taking the load when it is applied, and then subsequently how the load transfer is happening from one material to the other material. So all that we can try to understand from a simple physical model, what we call it as your spring cylinder model, or sometimes in books you'll also be finding it as spring analogy model. Okay. So what is this spring analogy model or spring cylinder model mean? So in the case of consolidation, whenever we are trying to talk about consolidation, why is that consolidation happening? Because of some change in stress level, what is induced in that particular soil, because of that increment in stress level. So we say the water is trying to come out of the soil, and because of the water getting dissipated out of the soil, then there is a decrease in volume of the soil happens. Okay. So let us try to understand that so-called phenomena of what is happening when some increment in stress is applied. Who is first taking that load? Okay, whether the water is taking that load or whether the solid particles are taking that load. If solid particles are taking that load, then your solid particles should be coming out of that soil medium, but it's not so. Water is taking that load in the initial stage, and due to that load what is taken by water, due to which only excess pore water pressures will start getting developed in the soil, and as the excess pore water pressures are built up in the soil, then you are going to be seeing that the water particles start finding some path to move easily out of that particular soil, because of which there is a decrease or a reduction in the pore water pressure. And as there is a decrease in pore water pressure, then simultaneously what is happening is there is a shift in load transfer from your water particles onto what is called as your solid particles. So in the process of consolidation, the increment in stress completely remains the same. But what is happening is you are going to see a change is happening in terms of the pore water pressure and your effective stress. Okay, so your pore water pressure continuously decreases, resulting in an increase in your effective stress in that particular soil, which indicates that initially the load which was taken by pore water is slow slowly getting is slowly shifted from pore water onto your solid particles existing in the soil. Why is that load slowly starts getting shifted from water particles onto your solid particles? Because water particles are slowly coming out. So in the process, as the water particles are getting dissipated out, then automatically the load transfer gets shifted onto your solid particles. So as the load starts getting shifted onto the solid particles, so due to that load, what is getting applied, now getting shifted onto the solid particles existing in the soil skeleton structure, particles start getting compressed closer and closer by decreasing the volume in between them, and that's how we say there is a decrease in volume of the total soil happening. Now, what do we do, or what do we see in this spring analogy model means? It's a simple model. Okay, so here this is what we call it as piston, and to this piston you have a spring attached, and inside this container you have water. Now look at here, how is the soil modeling is done, or how do we compare this spring cylinder model as similar to that of your soil? Because if I want to make you understand that, okay, the behavior of this model is as similar to that of what happens in the case of soil. So first we have to understand what is considered as what for making a comparison between this spring cylinder model to that of your soil. In the case of soil, what do we contain? And we are trying to talk about this consolidation. Obviously, consolidation happens only in the case of your saturated soil. When I say saturated soil, what are those two different phases it contains? It contains what is called as water. It contains what is called as solid particles. Okay, so water is anyhow already represented in this cylinder. The cylinder is completely filled with water, so water phase is indicated. Then how about the solid phase? Solid phase is represented in the form of your spring. Spring here in this model is indicating solids in the soil medium, and water is anyhow representing water only. Now look at here, on top of this piston, how is this piston? Piston is in turn connecting this spring. Spring is attached to the piston. Once you start applying the loading through the piston, I started my test. What did I do? Initially, I have ensured that the wall, you have a wall here. Wall is nothing, an opening. Okay. So what are we doing here is, initially I am keeping that wall closed. Initially, whenever you keep that particular wall closed, and if you start applying the loading from the piston, who is going to be taking that load? Whether your spring will be taking the load, or whether the water is going to be taking the load. In case if the spring is taking the load, then you should see that compression is happening in the spring. So what we are saying is, through the piston we are trying to transfer the load. This is the piston. This one. Okay. So through the piston we are trying to transfer some load. Now when we are trying to transfer some load, let's say P load is what we are trying to transfer through the piston, who is taking that load? Is that water taking the load, or is that spring taking the load? In case if water is said to be taking the load, then spring will have some stiffness. Because of the load what is getting transferred onto the spring, spring should certainly undergo the compression. When the spring is undergoing the compression, can the piston remain at this position? No, piston cannot remain at this position. Rather, piston has to move relatively in the downward direction in case if there is a compression happening in your spring. When can the piston move in the downward direction? Whenever your fluid from this goes out, some portion of the fluid, whenever it goes out, then only there is a decrease in volume happening there, because of which your piston can move in the downward direction. But can the fluid go out? No. Why? He said the valve is closed. So from this, what do I understand? Who is taking the load initially? When you apply some loading, who is responsible in taking that load? Is that spring is responsible in taking the load, or water is responsible in taking the load? So it's nothing but water which is responsible in taking the load initially, and slowly, once the water, whatever the load that is applied initially is taken by water, what does the water tries to do? Water tries to come out of that particular container. Now here the valve is closed. As the valve is closed, water cannot come out. So whatever load that you try to apply without opening the valve, that has to be obviously taken by your water which is there inside the container. Okay, so once the valve is opened, initially valve is closed, whatever load that I am applying, I am saying it is taken by your water only. Why? Because spring is not taking the load. Why is that spring not taking any load? Because in case if spring is assumed to be taking any load, then it should undergo some amount of compression in it. Because of the load what is getting applied onto the spring, spring undergoes some compression. Whether the spring is allowed to have that compression happening in it? No. Because the valve is not open. So as the valve is not open, there is no reduction in volume happening inside the container. If there is no reduction in volume happening in the container, then the piston cannot relatively move in the downward direction. If the piston is not said to be moving relatively in the downward direction, it means that there was no load getting transferred onto your spring. Then what is happening? Initially, when the valve is closed, whatever load that you have applied is ultimately getting transferred only onto your water which is there in that particular cylinder. Then once the valve is opened, once the valve you open, then what do you see? As the load from the piston is getting transferred onto the water, what is going to happen? Water starts easily finding some path. Water tries to find some path through which it can easily come out. Yes, valve is open. So water tries to easily come out when you are trying to transfer the load from the piston onto the water. So once the water starts moving out, then what is happening? Slowly, there is a shift in load happening from water onto your spring. Why there is a shift in load happening? Because initially the water is subjected to some amount of stress, and you open the valve, and this water which is there inside the container, which was subjected to some amount of stress, excess pressure, is now finding some path to easily move out. In the process, there is a release in pressure for water. How did that pressure release happen? Because the water was free to escape out of that particular container through the valve. And once there is a decrease in pressure on the water, then simultaneously the amount of load what you were applying from the top was not getting changed. But what has changed is, because of the opening of the valve, water which was initially taking all the load started slowly moving out. Once the water slowly started moving out, then the amount of pressure carried by your water started slowly decreasing. And once it started slowly decreasing, then automatically the amount of load what is to be taken by your spring should slowly start increasing. The more amount of water which goes out, the more amount of load transfer happens from water onto your spring. And this process is continuously happening. And at the end of the process means, whenever I say, because of the amount of applied loading, whatever amount of water which was supposed to be coming out of that container, if it is completely coming out, I don't say complete water is coming out. I do say only that amount of water which can come out because of that applied external loading. Once that amount of water is really coming out, then automatically the excess pore water pressure carried by water automatically becomes zero, and whatever the total load that you have applied is going to be carried only by your spring, and because of that load what is carried by the spring, you are going to see some amount of compression happening in your spring, and that amount of compression which happens in your spring is what we are calling it as here. In terms of soil, if I want to relate it and understand, so that amount of compression which took place in your spring is as similar to that of the considered category of compression happening in your soil skeleton structure, solid particles compression in between each of them, so which is resulting in what is called as the settlement in the soil. So that's the reason why we say the soil behavior in terms of the consolidation. If I want to understand the behavior of the soil, it's very much easily understood in the form of this physical model, that is your spring analogy model or the spring cylinder model. So all that whatever I have talked about are very much simply in a wordings are represented here. So initially, whenever you are applying the load P on the through the piston, so all that load is going to be taken by your water. This delta U indicates increase in pore water pressure. So that increase in pore water pressure is how much means as the applied load is completely taken by water initially. So all that load, whatever you have applied, has to be taken by your water only. So that increase in pore water pressure is nothing but it is equal to the amount of applied external pressure. And once we say all the load what is applied is taken only by the pore water, that's nothing but the water which is there inside that container. Then what becomes your effective stress? So applied stress is nothing but it is your excess pore water pressure only. So your effective stress, the change in effective stress is automatically nothing but zero because spring was not contributing anything in taking the load when the valve is closed. Same thing in a proper systematic manner is represented here. So there is an additional increment in stress coming onto your clay layer. So throughout the depth of the clay layer, if I am trying to look at, okay, so that increment in total stress is nothing but, I am not talking about how is the total stress varying in the clay layer. What is that I am trying to talk about? How much increment in total stress I am trying to talk about, not because of the self weight of the soil. It is because of the additional incremental condition. So that additional increment in stress, what is happening or what is coming in your complete clay is nothing but it is delta sigma throughout the depth. And the variation of your pore water pressure throughout the depth of the soil sample is nothing but it is equal to simply delta U, which is equal to delta sigma, because we said there is no dissipation of water happening from that particular container. In the similar way, initially when the load is applied, an incremental load is applied, so water particle at time t equal to 0 itself, it will not start coming out. So it tries to find some interconnected void path to which it can easily escape out. So through that interconnected void path only, the water particles start getting dissipated out of the solid. Okay. And what is happening with regard to your effective stress? So at time t equal to 0, we are saying that all the load whatever is applied is taken only by water. So there is an increment in pore water pressure because the load is carried by water. So solid particles existing in the soil is not carrying any load at time t equal to 0. So obvious that increase in effective stress is obviously equal to 0. As the valve is opened, once the valve is opened, what is happening? Water from the container is easily coming out. And once I say the water from the container is easily coming out, then automatically there is a shift in load carried by water. It is getting shifted onto your solid particle. So automatically we say, so here it indicates that your increase in pore water pressure slowly starts decreasing. Delta U, that's the increment in pore water pressure, is initially it was high, that is nothing but P by A, and then it went on to slowly decrease. Why is that it went on to slowly decrease? Because there is a dissipation in water happening. Dissipation in the water in the case of soil, if I want to understand, through the interconnected void path, the water particles are easily getting drained out of the soil, so which in turn decreases the excess pore water pressure which are built up in the soil. As there is a decrease in excess pore water pressure, then automatically whatever that external increment in stress that you have applied is started to get shifted from water to that of your solid particles. Because ultimately whatever load that is applied onto the soil, who is responsible for carrying it? Neither water particle has to carry, and neither solid particles has to carry, or both of them put together has to carry. Initially, we are saying at time t equal to 0, all the water, all the load, incremental load applied is carried by your water only. At time t equal to infinity, what does time t equal to infinity mean? Due to that increment in stress, whatever amount of water that was supposed to be coming out, let's say for example, I have a sponge, which is said to be fully saturated. The sponge is fully saturated. It means all the pore spaces are filled by water. Once you start applying some force on that sponge, what do you see? Because of the applied force only, some amount of water particles starts coming out. If I increase the force on that sponge further, some more amount of water particles comes out. Furthermore force, if I start increasing, some more amount of water particles starts coming out. What does it mean? Due to the amount of applied additional loading, certain amount of water particles are only getting expelled or removed out of that particular sponge. Okay. So dissipation of pore water happens only to some extent due to the amount of water, due to the amount of additional increment in stress. Sir, when somebody says consolidation process is completed, does it mean all the water particles inside the void space are completely removed? Understand my statement. If the word consolidation is completed, if somebody says consolidation in this particular soil is complete, does it mean all the water particles existing in the void spaces are completely removed out? Not exactly. Then what is it? Only due to that increment in stress, only due to that additional load what you have applied, whatever amount of water that can get expelled out only will come out. But still we say consolidation due to the applied load is completed. Because of that additional increment in stress, whatever amount of water that was supposed to be coming out only will come out. But however, we say consolidation process due to that applied increment in stress is completed. Because we cannot have any more water to be coming out for that amount of increment in stress or increment in load what you have applied on the soil. Now, if I apply some more stress on that particular soil additionally, yes, some more water will come out. Then at the end of that period, I'll be saying, okay, consolidation because of this additional increment in loading is completed. Okay. So my conclusion from the discussion is, whenever we say consolidation process is completed, it doesn't mean that all the water particles existing in the void spaces are completely removed. Only certain amount of water particles which are there inside the void spaces will only be coming out. That depends on the intensity of additional stress what you have applied on that particular soil. And throughout this process, how the behavior of soil is happening when this so-called consolidation process is taking place means, initially at time t equal to 0, whatever increment in stress that you have applied on the soil is taken by the water which is there inside your pore space. And as I said, your water is relatively lesser dense when compared to that of the density of your solid particles. So due to which water tries to find the interconnected void path to come out of the soil to relieve that excess pressure what it was bearing at time t equal to 0. So as time increases now, the load which was taken by water slowly starts getting shifted onto your solid particles. In the process, as the load gets slowly shifted from water particles onto your solid particles. So once the load is experienced by the solid particles, you start seeing that one solid particle starts relatively moving closer to the other solid particle, inducing what is called as your compression in the soil. And that so-called compression, what is taking place in the soil, is what we are referring it as your settlement due to the process of consolidation. Now, after some maximum time, what is that word maximum time or infinite time mean? Infinite time doesn't mean that after some thousands of years or hundreds of years or 10 years or 5 years. Infinite time here refers to that of some maximum time what is required for that much amount of water which was supposed to be coming out has come out. Okay, so it took, let's say, 10 years for that particular respective water particles to be coming out of that particular soil due to the applied increment in stress. Okay, so end of the consolidation process in this example, if I want to refer, it is 10 years. So at the end of that 10th year, who is taking the load? That increment in stress, whatever you have applied, who is taking? Not your water particle. Then who is taking? It is your solid particles which are existing in the soil. So at time t equal to 0, all the increment in stress applied is taken by your water, because of which we say there is an increase in pore water pressure. And as time increases, excess pore water pressure dissipation takes place, slowly indicating that there is a load transfer happening from water onto your solid particles. And at time t equal to infinity, if I am representing, it indicates that after some maximum time, all the excess pore water pressure is released, and then what you have is only the load completely what was additionally applied on the soil is now being carried by your solid particles existing in the soil. Because of that load what is taken by the solid particles existing in the soil, you are seeing a decrease in volume of the soil, because solid particles tries to have a compression in its soil skeleton structure. Okay, it's not that solid particle is decreasing in volume, rather particles are reorienting themselves and getting compressed or moving closer to each other, inducing what is called as a decrease in volume of the soil. The same thing, whatever I have talked about, is very much represented here. So if you are trying to look at the center of the clay layer, what is happening, at the top of the clay layer, what is happening in terms of the excess pore water pressure. Okay. At the bottom of the clay layer, what is happening? So let us just try to understand. So how much additional increment in stress that you have induced in your clay layer? So it is still delta sigma only. That's the total stress. How much additionally you have induced in your soil? That's the clay layer. Throughout its stress, it's delta sigma. But what is happening? Earlier, when you have seen your pore water pressure variation with the depth, excess pore water pressure variation with the depth, how it was at time t equal to 0, all the load what was applied increment in stress is taken by water only. So throughout the depth of the soil sample, as the water was not allowed to get dissipated out, so that excess pore water pressure was same throughout the depth of the soil sample. But now, at time t greater than 0, water started dissipating out of the soil. Water particles started easily moving out of the soil. Okay. Once the water particles started slowly moving out of the soil, then can you try to tell me which is the position of the water particle which requires more time to come out of the soil sample? Can I say the water particle which is exactly at the center of this clay layer requires more time when compared to that of the water particle which is there towards its boundary? Let's say I have water particle 1 here, water particle 2 here, water particle 3 here. Water particle 1, once the load is applied, once we see the water is allowed to get dissipated out of the soil through the interconnected void path, what do I see? Water particle 1 can easily get dissipated out of the soil sample by moving in the upward direction, because I have the drainage path in both the sides. In the upward side, the water particle can travel, or in the downward direction, the water particle can travel easily to get dissipated out of this clay soil. Easily to come out of that clay soil. So water particle can either move in the upward direction or can either move in the downward direction. So that excess pore water pressure what developed here in the soil is lower when compared to that of the excess pore water pressure what is getting developed in this particular depth of the soil. Why? Because here that water particle hardly takes less time to get dissipated out, but whereas this water particle has to travel from here to here in this direction, or has to travel from here to here in this direction in order to get dissipated out. So automatically at the center of the clay layer, you will be requiring more time for your water particle to get dissipated out. So relatively when you are comparing the amount of pore water pressure built up in your soil at its center when compared to that of its top or bottom. So at top and bottom, the pore water pressure automatically tends to become very, very less and almost become 0. Why is it becoming 0? At top and bottom means once the water is allowed to go out of the soil, these particles can easily escape out, and there is a pressure release happening easily at the top as well as at the bottom. Water particles which are there at the top of your clay layer and at the bottom of the clay layer, they can easily get dissipated out. Excess pore water pressures at the top of this clay layer and bottom of the clay layer can easily get dissipated and they come to be zero. Whereas in the center, as the water particles existing in the center relatively require more time. Okay, so you will still, though at time t equal at time t greater than 0, still we do see that these water particles are slowly taking time to in order to move either in the upward direction or in the downward direction, ultimately to get dissipated out of your soil sample. Okay, that's the reason why at the center you are relatively having excess pore water pressure which is said to be maximum, whereas at the top as well as at the bottom it is nothing but more or less equal to 0, because the water particles here at the top and bottom of the clay layer got easily dissipated out of the soil. So the so-called decrease in pore water pressure is suddenly becoming 0. The increment in pore water pressure at the top and bottom of the clay layer is suddenly becoming 0. And effective stress pattern, if you want to understand, effective stress is nothing but total stress minus pore water pressure. So here I am talking about the increment in effective stress, which is equal to increment in total stress minus increment in pore water pressure. So that increment in effective stress, if I want to calculate, it is nothing but increment in total stress at the top of the clay layer minus how much is the increment in your pore water pressure at the top of the clay layer. So that's how I can substitute and I can calculate at the top, bottom, and at the middle, and as well as at the bottom of the water pressure varying, as is your effective stress varying. Yeah, valve is kept open for a longer period of time, because of which whatever water that was supposed to be coming out came out of the soil or came out of the spring cylindrical model, and whatever load that was initially getting carried by water has completely now got shifted onto your spring, and because of which you could see some amount of compression happening in the spring, resulting in what is called as a settlement in that particular soil. If I want to compare the soil, so that compression in the spring is nothing but it is the settlement in the soil. So at time t equal to infinity, infinity in the sense after maximum time, then who is responsible for taking the load? Not your water. So it is completely a solid particles which are going to be taking that increment in stress what you have applied on the soil. So increment in stress is said to be constant throughout the depth. Pore water pressure you could see. All the excess water which was supposed to be coming out due to the applied loading has come out from the top of the layer, either from the center of the layer or from the bottom of the layer, from wherever that excess water particle, wherever it is, if it was supposed to be coming out, it has come out. So excess pore water pressure building up in the soil sample were equal to 0 after some infinite time, after some maximum time. Then effective stress, increment in effective stress is nothing but it is equal to your increment in total stress, because increment in pore water pressure was 0 at any particular time. So this so-called phenomena of consolidation is what we have understood by looking at what is called as the spring analogy model. Now, how do we perform this, or how do we understand how much amount of consolidation that your soil is going to undergo? So we would understand that by carrying out a test in the lab, which we call it as consolidation test, or we also call it as odometer test. And to be more specific, we call this particular test to be one-dimensional consolidation test. Why do we call it as one-dimensional consolidation test? We understood that whatever so-called settlement that is happening in the soil is very clearly understood to be happening in the vertical direction, not just that visibility of displacement of particle happening in the other two directions. So that's the reason why the so-called settlement in the soil, if I want to understand, I am just trying to understand from a test what is called as one-dimensional consolidation test, and that one fine-grained soil deposit. So how do we perform that? From that one-dimensional consolidation test, what do we determine, and all that we try to come across in our next class.